You've just been listening to a press conference with President Trump and Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. In it, the president said the U.S. will take over the Gaza Strip. Take a listen.
The U.S. will take over the Gaza Strip, and we will do a job with it, too. We'll own it and be responsible for dismantling all of the dangerous unexploded bombs and other weapons on the site, level the site and get rid of the destroyed buildings, level it out, create an economic development that will supply unlimited numbers of jobs and housing for the people of the area. Do a real job, do something different, just can't go back.
The president repeatedly called Gaza a hellhole, went on to say that it could be the Riviera of the Middle East. It's unclear what exactly the president means by all of this. It comes 15 months after Hamas terrorists stormed into Israel, killing hundreds and triggering that relentless bombardment in Gaza with tens of thousands of Palestinian lives lost. And tonight, just as Gazans are finally getting back home in the midst of that fragile ceasefire, President Trump has also doubled down on his suggestion that Palestinians should not go back to what's left of their homes. These are the images of the devastation many are just returning home to. President Trump said today that they should get a fresh, beautiful piece of land someplace else. This goes against Israeli policy and the posture of the U.S. government for decades. Egypt, Jordan, and the Arab League have all opposed the idea, Egypt's president calling it an injustice that we can never take part in. So what happens now? Do these comments threaten that fragile and tenuous ceasefire deal between Israel and Hamas? For now, we want to bring in our Perry Russum, who joins us now live from Washington. And Perry, just give us a sense, break down what you just heard.
I mean, we're talking about the U.S. taking over the Gaza Strip, with President Trump talking about long-term ownership positions. What does that look like? How much will it cost? He's talked about being open to the idea of sending in U.S. troops. I mean, there's so many things where we can begin. Will this be a state? Will it be a territory? He says that he wants world people living there, as you mentioned, calling it the possibility of the Riviera of the Middle East. But important to note here, he's saying the world cannot repeat the past. He's talking about moving 1.8 million people who live in the Gaza Strip, essentially saying you cannot live here anymore. So the question for those people is, what happens if they don't want to go? They've been living there for years, generations of families living there. Imagine just waking up one day and being told you no longer can stay here, and where are they going to go? I mean, he's mentioned Jordan and Egypt. Those two countries have definitively said that they do not want people coming there, and Trump's answer to that is no, they will take those countries. So this is essentially opening up Pandora's box of foreign relations, of what's possible in the Middle East. But Trump's saying that, you know, he wants to bring great peace to the Middle East, and saying that other countries are interested in this idea. This is a process that is going to take decades, possibly. This is a project that will outlast President Trump, so we'll have to see how long this lasts, and including reaction from members of Congress of what this entails for the American public and the American military and the American tax-paying dollars.
It was interesting because not only did you have Trump saying that he was going to take over the Gaza Strip, that the U.S. would, but then you had Netanyahu, who said he thought it was an idea worth pursuing. And I want to take a listen to another point when Trump was asked about what he said about taking Gaza over.
You are talking tonight about the United States taking over a sovereign territory. What authority would allow you to do that? Are you talking about a permanent occupation there, redevelopment? And Mr. Prime Minister, do you see this idea as a way to expand the boundaries of Israel and to have a longer peace, even though the Israeli people know how important that land is to you and your citizens, just as the space is inherited by the Palestinians as well?
I do see a long-term ownership position, and I see it bringing great stability to that part of the Middle East and maybe the entire Middle East. And everybody I've spoken to, this was not a decision made lightly. Everybody I've spoken to loves the idea of the United States owning that piece of land, developing and creating thousands of jobs with something that will be magnificent in a really magnificent area that nobody would know. Nobody can look because all they see is death and destruction and rubble and demolished buildings falling all over. It's just a terrible sight.
Russum, we have to imagine that these comments are going to ripple throughout Washington and beyond.
Yeah, I mean, there's going to be so much reaction coming into this, and including, where are these people? I'm just curious where they're expecting 1.8 million people to go. You have President Trump mentioning, oh, one country could take them, 12 countries could take them. They could go to numerous sites or one site. And remember, he's not talking about moving these people. He used the word permanent earlier today. And as we were watching Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu during that news conference, he was kind of sidestepping some of the questions on his thoughts of all of that, kind of supporting President Trump in this idea, in this endeavor. As Netanyahu was mentioning, he did not really imagine that Trump would take it to the level that he is. But, there's going to be so much reaction coming in, not only from D.C., here in D.C., but also from around the world of what this is going to look like. Because the next question is going to be, when does the U.S. get involved? And then when does the U.S. know when to leave? Is this something where the U.S. is going to have a stake in the Middle East in terms of land for the foreseeable future?